Hey guys, Corey Siren here. Welcome back to my channel. So, this is going to be a little bit of a different video. And the reason you can't see me is because I'm actually in bed. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like watching YouTube videos and watching the news and all that good stuff. Everyone's asleep, so I can't turn on like all of my studio lights and my cameras and shit like that without waking everyone up or some people up. So anyway, that's why this video is dark, and I may re-edit it later and like throw in some slides or something to look at. But um, in the meantime, it'll just be me talking. Um, if you hear snoring in the background, that's Dag. um, so I just got done watching Siren Cove's YouTube video about why aren't we talking about this, and it was, about her experiences and then just things in general, talking about older men dating younger girls. And I actually like kind of got anxious when I was watching the video because I'm like, oh my god, I've wanted to talk about this for years and never did. Wasn't sure how it would be received. Got to the point where I didn't really give a fuck, but didn't think about making a video on it. And kind of now that someone else is talking about it, and now that she like started talking about it, I'm like, okay, let's make a video. Let's see what happens. I don't know if people will have things to say in the comments. Obviously, I have an extremely small channel. So I don't know if this will be good or bad. I don't even know if anyone will watch it because, it's me on a black screen. But yeah, so her video is basically about older men, like in their 20s and 30s, dating younger women. And as I was watching it, I kind of like I had to take a Xanax because I'm like, okay, I'm actually going to talk about this. And I'm kind of in the same boat as her on the fact that we probably didn't realize that this happened to other girls, and maybe that's why it took us so long to talk about it. It took her like 10 years. I guess this is her first time talking about it, and I'm 27, and this first happened to me when I was 11. So that's 16 years. Um and this is going to be kind of like a rambling video. I'm sorry, but anyway. So I felt the need to kind of share my story, and huge shout out to Siren Cove for kind of like opening that door for people to talk about it, because I didn't know how it would be received. But at this point I just kind of don't care. But I did have a lot of experience with this when I was a kid. So the first time this happened, like I said, it's been 16 years. I was this video probably won't be edited either, sorry. I was 11. I think I was actually 10 when I first got like introduced to this person. Also, don't mind me smoking my cigarette. Anyway, I think I was 10 when I got introduced to this person because I think he was at my 11th birthday party. So there's that. I don't know if I'm having the same struggle she did in her video as to if I want to use their real names, because it could cause a lot of problems for them potentially. Oh God, what am I? Okay. I don't know. Okay, we're just gonna use he's like So some backstory as to why it might cause problems for him. He's a doctor now, which flabbergasts me. But anyway, so it's like, I want to talk about the experiences, but I don't think I want to, like, in an essence, I don't feel that I was abused, um, but that could be looked at in several different ways. I don't feel that I was abused or manipulated, but that could be looked at in several different ways. So we'll just call him Steven. That's not his name, but we'll call him Steven. So, um, I met Steven through where my mom worked when I was 10. And the reason that when I was 10, he was 16. And he worked for my mom. And so the reason that I got introduced to him was because I have always been extremely mature for my age. As in, I was well beyond the mental capacity, the IQ, the EQ, a lot of things as far as being um God like mature when I was that age. And I know some people will think like, oh, that's an excuse, you're not really that mature when you're young. I was. And I got really bored and didn't really mesh with kids my age because of that. Like, I meshed more with adults. And even when I was in school, I would spend more time with teachers grading papers than I would with kids. And my teachers tried to sway that, and they're like, no, you have to go out for recess, you have to do this, you have to go be a kid, blah, blah, blah. As to why that is, I'm not really sure. I've always been very book smart and things like that, and extremely mature. And I guess that's probably just my upbringing. I wasn't a sheltered kid. I was able to learn a lot of things from my parents. I was able to learn a lot of things from the outside world. Of course, I was protected, but I was not sheltered by any means whatsoever. And all of my family were extremely open. So there's that. So I was 10, going on 11, and Steven was 16, and he worked for my mom. I was really into video games. I was really into anime. I had taught myself Japanese, all of these different things. And he was into the same things. And he's like, oh, your daughter sounds really cool. So she gave him, these were back in the AOL days, dear God. She gave him my email and showed me a picture of him. And I'm like, oh my God, he's really cute. He's older. Why would he be interested in me? This is really cool. And I guess that's just, now that I'm seeing like a lot of people talk about this, I guess that's just how we felt when we were younger. So he emailed me, and we would chat and we would talk about video games, and like we would keep each other updated on where we were in video games. And it sounds so childlike, and it was. But when I turned 11, he went to my birthday party, which was at Chuck E. Cheese, which is really weird to think about now. But yeah, so he came to my birthday party, and I think that's actually like the only picture I have of us together, and we're all sitting at a table, with a bunch of pizza and stuff like that. But I like cherished that picture to the point where I had such a crush on him that I would like kiss this photo every night before I went to bed of his face, and like just from kissing it, like it was like the photo of his face in that spot was like melting away. And that's how long I had that photo. And I kept it by my bed, like on top of these little shelves. Anyway, So this is gonna be a really long video. I'm so sorry. So we had met and he came to my 11th birthday party. Um, I want to say when I was 11 going on 12, we were hanging out pretty regularly. He would drive over. He had this blue, like 1990 something Chevy Cavalier, and I had always wanted one. Literally because of him. And I even remember like he would drive up to the house and my parents let me hang out with him. It was always like supervised and things like that. We literally played video games and watched anime. He was a teenager, I was a preteen. It wasn't like a creepy thing. But so I remember like going out and being like, hey, I like got this new bike, like check out what I can do. And he's in his car and he's laughing and blah blah blah. This is excruciatingly hard to talk about, to come to think of it. So I hung out with him a lot more than I did my other friends at a point. And when I was 12, like we would go like to arcades and we'd play DDR. He introduced me to DDR. And we'd go play golf and we'd go do this and that. And when I was 12 is when we started getting closer to each other. Not in a sexual sense, just full disclaimer here. Sorry. All of the guys that I talk about in this video, I have never had sex with. I didn't have sex until I was 17, almost 18. I have never had sex with any of these guys. With Steven, I did one sexual thing with him that was actually my idea, and was weird, and he was extremely cool about it, but we'll get to that. So we were sitting, oh god, now I just thought of another one that goes by the same name that was older. Dear God. Okay, so we were sitting in my living room, and when I was young, I looked extremely mature. Like, I popped tits when I was 11 years old. Like, I was a double D pushing a triple D by the time I was 13. And so I was really tall. I looked much older. I looked probably 17, 18 years old. If I can find a picture, I'll throw it up eventually. But so when I was about 12 years old, we were sitting and talking, and he had actually snuck over to my house that day because my parents explicitly said, you cannot hang out with him by yourself. This will not turn into something crazy like dating or blah, blah, blah. I had obviously had like little shit, 12-year-old boyfriends and whatnot. But that was a very big no-no. And I started sneaking him over to my house. And it was one day when he had snuck over to my house, and these were like elaborate sneakings, like to the point like where he had got me like my own cell phone. He would call and like let the phone ring like in the middle of the night or in the morning like once, and I would know to call him back. He was lying to his parents because he still lived with his parents. He was still in high school for some of this. He was lying to his parents about who I was, where I lived, like even social status, because his parents were so like uppity. And I had to lie about him being there, and we came up with these elaborate plans as to where he would park so people wouldn't tell on me and no one would see his car and blah, 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 in order for him to get into my house. So we were hanging out, and we had come to the mutual understanding of, hey, I've had a crush on you for years, as, some young girls will. I mean, who didn't have a crush on, Johnny Depp or Brad Pitt when they were 12 years old? But I had an extreme crush on him, and I wanted to be in a relationship with him. Didn't know what the fuck that meant, really. And so it was reciprocated, and he didn't understand why. So, which leads me to believe that this wasn't like an abusive slash manipulative thing on his part. Um, but I don't really know how to gauge that, I guess. Um, Everything with him was very innocent, until he became extremely obsessive. And even then, it wasn't scary. But anyway, I remember him like leaving the house, and we were both very frustrated. And he's like, "You're 12. I'm 7." He was 17 at the time. He hadn't turned 18 yet. And he's like, "You're 12. I don't understand why I love you, but I do." That was the exact sentence that he said as we were both storming out of my house and he was storming back to his car, because he didn't really understand what was going on inside of his head as to why he liked this 12-year-old girl so much. And you would think that it would stop there, but it didn't. We actually did start, quote unquote, dating and called each other boyfriend and girlfriend. To kind of skip forward, I would sneak him over to my house, and then he would come over again later in the day when my parents were home, and they okayed it, and we talked on the phone, when they okayed it, and we hung out in the living room, we hung out in my room when we were allowed to, with the door open, obviously, and my parents could see, and blah, blah, blah. If we went anywhere together, it was with other friends of mine or with my parents. And I remember one time, like, we snuck out to go see a movie. And I had to take my friend Jacob along, which he wasn't, like, loving it at all. But he's like, "Fuck it, I'll go see a movie so that you can hang out." But it turned in, we kissed and we hugged and, all of this. And he even, went as far to, when I was like 13 or something, like sneak up to my window, like in the middle of the night, and come see me just so that he could see my face. That's what he said. He just wanted to see me and blow me a kiss and leave. And one night he actually got into a car accident because he came and snuck by my window, which he had to sneak by my dad's computer room window to get to my window. And then he like circled the block and came back around, and he was staring at my window, and trying to see me without like getting out of his car after he had come to see me, and ran into the neighbor's car and had a wreck and then drove off. And I'm like, "Oh God." So like I knew what happened. And when I was 13, I think, between like 12 and 13, my friends started getting really mad at me, because I was always around this guy. I went skating a lot, and I would bring him to the skating rink with me. He would barely ever skate, but he wanted to be around me as much as he could be. He would buy me gifts. He asked me to marry him and bought me a $500 engagement ring. That I don't know if I told my parents about until like years later. But he did actually, like, my parents and my mom especially caught on to the fact that he was in love with me. And, before that, like, my friends started like making fun of me. They're like, "Are you having sex with this older dude?" and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't understand why they were treating me like this. And now in hindsight, I kind of do. As I said, I looked older. So everyone assumed from the ages of like 12 until I actually did lose my virginity that I wasn't a virgin. Like I had conversations and arguments back and forth when I was 15 and 16 saying like, "Oh no, you've lost your virginity, blah, blah, blah." No, I didn't. So that was a thing. But my mom made this joke one time when we were hanging out. And she's like, "If you just went and joined the military and came back in 4 years, as soon as you came back, she'd be old enough for you to actually date." And it was a really funny joke by my mom. And we were laughing and, whatever. And he actually went and joined the military. He went and joined the Navy. And when you're in boot, you can't really have you don't really have contact with your family. You can't write notes that often. But he did write me letters, and I still have all of those letters. We even had code, and it pissed my parents off. Like when he would call, like we would speak in Japanese, and say I love you. Or once my parents caught on to that, we changed things and started saying kitty. And I don't know why it was that word, but before we hung up the phone, we would say kitty, and we knew that that meant I love you. So anyway, I'm like rambling and like going out of whatever, it doesn't matter. But so he went and joined the Navy and called me whenever he could and sent me letters whenever he could. And the letters got like more and more disturbing mentally, because he was not in a good place. He was literally at a point where if he couldn't see me, he would go nuts and be having a mental breakdown and be in this huge depression. And the Navy discharged him before he completed boot. I think before he completed boot. As mentally unsafe, mentally unwell, mentally something. And that was literally from the fact that he broke down because he couldn't have enough phone calls and couldn't hear from me as often as he mentally needed to. So he got a medical discharge for not having the correct mental state to be in the Navy. Looking back on that, is it flattering that he, my mom said, go join the Navy. When you get back, she'll be old enough for you to date? Yes. Is it absolutely insane? And insane that he got discharged like that as well? Yes. Because how many guys do you know that will take that literally? So once he got discharged, I saw him a few times, and then I didn't see him for a few years. And we reconnected again when I was 16. So he would have been 22 or 23. And he came over, he called me, and then he came over and he asked my parents if we all wanted to have dinner, and we're like, yeah, sure. It was awkward. Because I was mad at him, because when we stopped talking, it was because there were these rumors being spread. Eventually his friend Jack started talking to me as well and being extremely sexual, extremely abusive, extremely manipulative. And that wasn't okay. And there were rumors circulating at work. My mom also worked there. For example, he got into a car wreck. And he ended up having this burn on like his neck / shoulder from the seatbelt, when he got in the car wreck. And when he showed up to work and there was like this picnic for work and everything, everyone's like, oh, it must be Hickey. It must be a Hickey from them fucking around. And we were all so upset and it pissed my mom off because people were talking like this, and she knew that her daughter didn't do this. And we knew what the truth was, and that it was from these car accidents, but no one else would believe that. So it was upsetting. And, there were pictures of it that he had to submit, and he went to the doctor and blah, blah, blah. And no matter what you would tell anybody, about the fact that, we weren't having sex, and we weren't leaving hickeys on each other, and that this big fucking mark on his neck was from his car accident, and any other thing, like I wasn't sucking his dick or whatever, wasn't real. No one wanted to believe that. Everyone had their own thing. So that was daunting. And I lost a lot of friends with my quote unquote relationship with him, because he was so much older, and everyone's like, this is disgusting, this is gross, blah, blah, blah. And everyone believed that there was more going on than there actually was. So of course it was even more gross. So there was this rumor that got started. I knew a lot of his friends at work. And there was a rumor that got started. I still don't know if it's true, but they're like, oh, he cheated on you with this girl, Amy, at work. Um, and they had hung out and everything. And I thought that it was true. And I gave him hell about it. Um, and he bought me gifts to try to apologize. And he did all of, like, I broke up with him and he would come leave me gifts on my porch. He even, still to this day, which interestingly enough, all of my cam girl things and toys are in this trunk, but he bought me this giant trunk. Okay. And like he drew and we did RPGs with his friends and stuff like that. He wrote me this like 2 or 3 page long note and drew this picture of us on the bottom and sealed it with wax. Bought me this giant green trunk. It's gorgeous. And filled it with 24 roses. And brought it to my house. Like, got it out of the back of his van. Brought it to my house to try to make amends and for me to get back together with him. And I'm like, no, fuck you. And I think that that was the last time I saw him until I was 16. But yeah, it was this big, long, elaborate note. I think I still have it somewhere, sealed with wax, all these flowers. And my parents are like, what is this? I'm like, he's upset because I broke up with him. And I think I was like 15. So the 16 thing, he like came back and, you know, the dinner thing, and we went to go get Chinese food. And on the way back, we kissed. And for like a fleeting moment, I was like, oh my God, I missed this. And he was the same way, but I didn't act on it in any way. I was still upset that he had left the way that he did and got another girlfriend, and I hated the fact that he had a different girlfriend. I even met her, and we all like did RPGs together, and but so we came back and like there were like a couple of pictures taken of us and things like that, and we all had dinner together and talked about things long past from when we were younger. And after that, I didn't see him ever again. And to this day, I haven't seen him in person. So it's been 11, almost 12 years since I've seen him. Now I have talked to him recently. I think the first time I talked to him again, and I was like smitten all over again. Like seeing his photos and seeing his pictures brought back so many memories. We even had a song. Like we would go to karaoke nights together and he would sing this song to me, Here's to the Night by Eve 6. And he would sing that song to me every night that we went to this bar. But it was like kids could go to this bar. It was like a restaurant, but they had karaoke and it was also a bar like in the back. But he would sing karaoke and he would sing the song, and that was our song, Eve 6, Here's to the Night. And he would sing that to me every time we went there. And people thought it was so odd. Some people had no idea what was going on. But that was just our thing. And I have so many memories with him that when like we reconnected, it was like he had never left. But and now, like I said, he's a doctor. He moved away. He's married now. He has kids. And then now he lives in this area again. And we reconnected a little bit and just talked like over Facebook. And then he was disappeared again. And then he popped up again more recently, and we talked actually quite a bit before the Kingdom Hearts 3 release, which was in the end of January. And just the way that he talks now, I can't believe that he was never like this, like how he is now when I was younger. He was the sweetest guy and, you know, was so funny and so loving. And now just the way that he talks when we're texting each other seems so sexual and so manipulative and so cocky that I'm like, how did you go from that guy 16 years ago to this guy now? And when I was 16, or when I was 15, my parents were going to give their blessing for me to get married at 16, because 16 is the age of consent in this state. And I would have been 16, he would have been 22. So they were going to give their blessing for me to get married. If that's what I wanted to do, that's what I wanted to do. And thank God I dodged that bullet. My mom was cool with it. My dad, not so much. He's like, I don't want her to fucking do that. No, that's not okay. And I don't blame my parents for it at all. But it's like, thank God I dodged that bullet because of the person. Because one, it was wrong. And two, the person that he is now is disgusting. I was so excited to talk to him again. And I'm going to have to make this into a series because I have like 3 other fucking people to talk about. This was just the most, like the biggest one. So I was so excited to talk to him again. But once we started texting and he had like direct access to me, through texting, it was just, if I can like throw up some screenshots, if I edit this video, I might just straight upload it. I don't know. I will, but he's just so like passive aggressively sexual and crude and cocky. And I know that when I was younger, I was manipulative in my womanly way, well, girlish way, I guess, to get what I wanted out of him. And I was very much like that when I was young, because I always had the attention of older men. And maybe that's why I'm a dominatrix now. But it's just the way that he turned out now. I'm like, how did you go from being this person that I probably could have like spent the rest of my life with to just being this cocky asshole now? And I was so excited to start talking to him again. And when he was just like that, he would text me and I just stopped responding. Like, I was totally over it. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'll still see pictures of him and I'll still remember how things were when I was young, because it was really